Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to Natural Land Bodybuilding. Mountain. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how long can you make gains for. So I just had somebody comment and they said that, Jason, when were the majority of your gains when you trained? Was it in the first couple of years or first 8 years or so? And then after that, did you make any gains or what happened? So one thing I want to say to you guys out there is don't limit yourself based on what you see in some sort of stupid video on YouTube, because there's a lot of guys out there that are talking a lot of trash, honestly. I'm just going to say it. They're saying that you can only make gains through the first 5 years or 6 years. Most of these guys have only been training 7 or 8 years or 10 years or whatever, and they're trying to justify their lack of results or whatever it is, but I don't know what's going on in their head. But the bottom line is that you can still make gains long after 8 years. Now, just so you know, from my own personal experience, I made gains for 20 years straight. Now, maybe they're not newbie gains, but from the time that I first competed in 96 to the time I competed in 2002, my physique changed quite a bit. Now, I might have been lighter on stage, but I was way leaner and I had more muscle mass, especially in the off season. If you factor in the same body fat percentage with body weight, I was actually much heavier than I was when I first competed at 22 years old. And at 22 years old, I had already been training for 8 years, right? So the bottom line is from 14 to 34, I made massive gains, and I continued to make gains right up until the time I was 34. Now, of course, the gains were more subtle, but they still were there. They were still prevalent. And that said, I still could have continued to make gains, except for I chose to embark on a hockey journey at 34, and I dislocated a shoulder and tore a rotator cuff and did immense amounts of cardio. So I changed my focus at around 34, 35 years old to more hockey, because that was my passion at the time. I was more interested in doing that. I had already done everything I could do in natural bodybuilding, and there was no career to speak of besides what I had already accomplished. So I said, okay, what can I do now for fun, right? So I got into a different sport. Now, that said, if I hadn't done that, I still would have continued to make gains. It's just that, hey, sometimes you want to try different things. Sometimes you want to get into martial arts, or sometimes you want to skateboard. I don't know. Sometimes you want to just do something different than just weight training. And that was what I wanted to do at that time in my life. So my point is that as a natural bodybuilder, you're making gains for a long period of time. So don't limit yourself just because you're like, oh, well, you know, I've been training for 5 or 6 years. I can never get better than I am now. That's not true. The gains can continue for 20, 25, 30 years. Consistent training, depending on when you start, of course, when you're a kid. And there are studies out there that show that when 70-year-olds train, they still gain some strength and stuff. So I'm here to say that you don't have to limit yourself. Now, the thing is, you're probably thinking like, oh, well, Jason, you're not as big as you were during your competition years. I would say in some areas, I'm actually bigger than I was when I competed. And in some areas, I'm smaller. Now, the reason why is because I did get quite a few hockey injuries, which influenced my training. But does that mean that I can't overcome them? Well, of course I could overcome them, or at least there's a possibility of that. And I'm constantly looking for ways to overcome limitations that my own body has experienced. And I'm pretty proud of what I've accomplished with my physique so far, considering some of the limitations that I've had to overcome, such as the bicep tear and the dislocated shoulder and, you know, that sort of stuff. You know, life is full of challenges, but my point is, it isn't because the body cannot adapt. That's what I'm saying. If you have injuries or car accidents or all this kind of stuff, those are other factors to consider. But it's not because the body just stops adapting or stops getting better. There is a point, of course, where there's a limit, but don't be so sure about what those limits are, because you don't know. Genetically, you might have a different limit than, say, somebody else or whatever. And just so you know, the guy that won the World Natural Bodybuilding Championships when I was competing at the World Naturals, he was 50 years old, and he just blew people off the stage with his conditioning and his muscle mass. 50. A natural bodybuilder at 50 years old, right? Older than me. Looked way better than I do. And the guy was awesome. So again, I'm just here to say that what I've seen and what I've experienced is not in alignment with some of the stuff that's being said on social media right now about, you know, after 5 years or 8 years, you just can't gain anymore as a natural and that's it, you know. Watch out for guys that say this stuff, because some of them are trying to promote a different lifestyle choice. Some of them are just trying to promote limitation because that's what they experience. So they're automatically assuming you should have the same limitation as them. So, you know, there's kind of this weird kind of jealousy thing going on. So again, don't limit yourself. In the end, this game is not necessarily about limits, especially internally. So just let go of all limitations, let go of that mind, because the mind is nothing but limitations. Train, find out what's working, and just put one foot in front of the other and enjoy the process. That's what you can do. So yeah, I hope this helps you out in your training. I hope this helps you understand that, yeah, gains can continue. You know what I mean? Mountain. The mountain never stops growing. You know what I'm saying? It might take a million years, but damn it, still keeps growing. I think the Himalayas are still growing, aren't they? Look that up. Look that up. I hope this helps you in your training. Thanks a lot for watching. If you need to get a hold of me, just go to naturalglambodybuilding.com, and thanks to the Patreon supporters, and take care for now.